Well, I did get in a car in this weather. I think we all did.
Okay, all right, that's pretty close.
That's close. Every day's pretty exciting.
Every day's pretty exciting.
Every day's, because every day's a little crazy sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially Mission.
Tonight we bring you an exclusive confession that everyone in Hollywood has been waiting for. On a crisp autumn evening in 2023, Russell Crowe agreed to sit down in front of the camera and share the untold story of his relationship with Tom Cruise. For decades, whispers have circulated about tension, rivalry, and behind-the-scenes drama whenever these two legends crossed paths. Some said they were cordial, others claimed the atmosphere crackled like dry tinder. Now, for the first time, Crowe himself will break his silence, and you are about to hear exactly what he has to say. From war-scarred gladiator to award-winning intellectual, Crowe has never shied away from embracing roles that challenge him both physically and emotionally. Meanwhile, Cruise built his reputation as Hollywood's ultimate daredevil, throwing himself into death-defying stunts that seemed to redefine the possibilities of cinema. When these two powerhouses finally came face-to-face, expectations soared, and so did tension. But what really happened the moment their worlds collided? According to Crowe, the answer is far more complicated than rumors have led us to believe. It all began in the summer of 1992, at a laid-back barbecue in Sydney, hosted by Nicole Kidman. A rising star, fresh from his breakthrough in Australian indie films, Crowe walked into the backyard unsure what to expect. On the other side of the patio, Cruise arrived flanked by assistants, his presence magnetic and unmissable. Kidman, bridging two worlds, introduced them and watched with anticipation. According to Crowe, Cruise extended a warm handshake and asked a question that would leave a lasting impression. How do you build a character like yours? What followed was more than polite small talk. It was the spark of a conversation about craft that lasted hours. Despite that initial spark of mutual respect, their relationship took a turn when personal lives collided with professional stakes. In 2001, Cruise's marriage to Kidman ended in a highly publicized split that caught Crowe in the crossfire. Press rumors suggested Crowe was obliged to pick a side, and when he voiced his support for Kidman, it didn't go unnoticed. Cruise's camp contacted representatives, hinting at discomfort. Crowe refused to back down. That bold stance cemented a rift that would echo for years, planting seeds of tension that only deepened when the two finally shared a set. Fast forward to 2017, when fate and a hefty paycheck sent them both to the set of The Mummy. Industry insiders describe an atmosphere thick with unspoken grudges as the cameras rolled on their long-awaited on-screen showdown. The sequence pitted Crowe's measured intensity against Cruise's relentless energy. Over 4 grueling days, both actors demanded to perform every stunt themselves, wreaking havoc on the elaborate Egyptian temple set. Crew members admit they were divided into factions, cheering for one star or the other, while production insurance premiums climbed by the hour. In a rare candid moment captured on his handheld camera, Crowe stops mid-interview and leans forward, his gaze intense. "Look, I have enormous respect for what Tom does. I've watched him defy gravity and break barriers like no one I know. But I'm an actor. My battleground is the emotions, the subtle choices, the quiet moments that linger long after the credits roll. We're both craftsmen in our own right, but that doesn't mean we have to play by the same rulebook." It's a statement that reframes years of conjecture, offering a glimpse into Crowe's philosophy and the divide that widened between them. As Crowe unfolds his story, he takes us through key moments that reveal how friendship can bloom into respect, then sour into rivalry. He recounts their first adrenaline-fueled collaboration on a mid-2000s blockbuster, where Cruise's insistence on performing a wingsuit jump clashed with Crowe's emphasis on character motivation. He describes reaching a tipping point when a miscommunication over a single scene led to a heated exchange that was never scripted or rehearsed, a moment that left both men questioning whether they could ever truly collaborate again. Yet even in that intense confrontation, Crowe admits, there was a flicker of admiration for Cruise's unwavering commitment. It's a mix of emotions. He confesses to watch someone you once respected push themselves to the edge, only to realize that your own passion lies somewhere else entirely. With each anecdote, he peels back another layer of Hollywood glamour to expose the delicate balancing act between creative collaboration and personal pride. And as he speaks, you can't help but wonder, if Crowe and Cruise can struggle to find harmony, what hope is there for any two titans of the silver screen? A question that will resonate with fans alike, challenging the idea of what it takes to create cinematic magic. Despite the tension, Crowe found himself reflecting on moments when their differences almost became a source of creative electricity rather than friction. On the day they filmed a key confrontation in a mid-2000s blockbuster, Crowe vividly recalls standing across from Cruise in a cavernous soundstage, the light glinting off his co-star's perfectly sculpted jawline. Cruise's eyes were alive with that trademark intensity, a white-hot focus that had driven him to leap motorcycles off cliffs and plunge into frozen depths without a stunt double in sight. Crowe, in contrast, felt the weight of his preparation in every muscle, hours of dialect coaching, decades of stage training, and a lifetime of channeling raw emotion into a single, tremulous sigh. At that moment, time slowed. The director yelled action, and the two titans clashed with an unexpected spark. Cruise delivered his lines with breathless urgency, each syllable punctuated by a jitter of adrenaline. Crowe responded in kind, his voice a low rumble carrying the gravity of a man who had wrestled with grief and glory. The electric chemistry was undeniable, but it wasn't born from harmony, it arose from the collision of two opposing forces. Rather than smooth synchronization, their on-screen duel crackled like a storm gathering power. Later that night, as the crew packed up lights and cameras, Crowe found himself alone in the echoing set. He could still hear the ghost of their exchange, Cruise's crisp delivery dancing with his own deeper timbre. It was then that he realized something critical. Their conflict was not a weakness but a hidden strength waiting to be harnessed. He picked up his phone and sent Cruise a text. Simple, unassuming. Great work today. Challenging in the best way. Within minutes, Cruise replied with a thumbs-up emoji and a compliment that surprised Crowe more than anything else. Right back at you. That energy pushed me. It was a small exchange, almost trivial, yet it marked the first crack in the wall that had formed between them. Crowe tucked his phone into his pocket, feeling a curious lightness in his chest. For the first time in years he sensed that they might bridge their divide after all. In the weeks that followed, crowds started noticing subtle shifts. Rumors circulated that Cruise had personally requested a delayed wrap party so he could ensure Crowe was invited. Pictures emerged of the two laughing together over tequila shots, their shoulders brushing as they animatedly recounted a missed cue or a spectacular set mishap. On social media, fans speculated wildly, was this a genuine thaw or just another calculated PR move? Crowe watched the speculation with bemusement. He knew exactly what had shifted. A mutual recognition that their feud had become something of a public spectacle, a distraction from the work they both loved. By choosing to reach across the divide, they reclaimed their narrative, and in doing so, reminded each other why they had ever admired one another in the first place. Yet reconciliation on Hollywood's scale is never simple. When the film premiered months later, critics focused less on the story and more on the dynamic between the two leads. One review gushed that the actors electrified every frame just by standing side by side, while another lamented that their off-camera history overshadowed the plot itself. Crowe chuckles recalling the line, "I felt like we were both in competition with our own legends." But the reviews, positive or not, signaled a turning point. Audiences were hungry to see two masters of their craft pushing each other to new heights. That hunger speaks directly to the heart of Hollywood's biggest questions. How do you balance ego and empathy? How do two personalities, each accustomed to being number one, find a shared rhythm? By the time awards season rolled around, the narrative had shifted once more. At a glitzy gala, Cruise approached the stage to present an award, then paused mid-announcement. He looked directly at Crowe, seated just a few rows back. "I'd like to acknowledge someone who challenged me to dig deeper on set every single day," Cruise said, his voice carrying clear across the hall. "Russell Crowe, thank you for reminding me that emotion can be the most dangerous stunt of all." The audience erupted in applause. Crowe felt his throat tighten as Cruise raised his glass in salute. In that moment, the script of their story rewrote itself, from rivalry to respect, from whispers of animosity to public admiration. Behind the scenes, however, Crowe admits that their relationship remains a work in progress. Old habits die hard, and there are still days when he watches Cruise defy death from atop a speeding train or plunge willingly from heights that make Crowe's stomach knot. And there are still mornings when Cruise marvels at Crowe's ability to convey heartbreak with a mere glance, the vulnerability of a man stripped of his armor. What Crowe has come to cherish is the friendly push and pull that keeps them both sharp. He likens it to two swordsmen practicing duels. Each strike hones the other, each parry strengthens both. "We're still learning from each other," Crowe confides, his tone warm. "Maybe that's the greatest secret of all. It's not about proving who can scream louder on camera or who can cry more convincingly, it's about two craftsmen expanding one another's horizons." Looking ahead, Crowe teases a final project that might reunite them once more. A venture rumored to blend Cruise's death-defying spectacle with Crowe's character-driven depth. Though details are scarce, Crowe allows that he's intrigued by the challenge. "What if we could merge my world and his world into something that neither of us could achieve alone?" The mere idea sends a ripple of excitement through fans. Could this be the moment when Hollywood's greatest action star and its most revered dramatic actor create a new genre altogether? Crowe neither confirms nor denies but offers a smile that promises big things. He ends with a thought that cuts straight to the heart of their shared journey. At the end of the day, it's not about who's louder or faster or stronger, it's about the stories we tell together. Despite the applause and camaraderie, Crowe confesses there were moments when he questioned every choice he made around Cruise. He vividly recalls being asked in 2005 about Cruise's criticisms of Brooke Shields' postpartum depression advocacy. By that time, their private barb jabs had already made tabloid rounds. But when Cruise publicly labeled psychiatry pseudoscience and scoffed at the idea of chemical imbalance, Crowe instinctively felt compelled to defend what he saw as a vulnerable woman's right to medical care. Crowe says he arrived at the studio parking lot moments before Cruise's pre-interview pep talk, saw a throng of reporters, and decided to step forward. He remembers telling Shields, "This has gone beyond movie talk. It's people's lives." That statement was intercepted by flashbulbs. Within hours, the story dominated morning shows. Crowdsourced petitions trended online demanding an apology. And though Cruise eventually apologized privately to Shields, he never retracted his public stance. Crowe watched the fallout with heavy lungs. He felt the weight of responsibility to speak up, even if it meant speaking against a titan. But that wasn't the only time Crowe found himself grappling with Cruise's public persona colliding with his own values. He points to the infamous Scientology video anecdote at that first barbecue, when Cruise offered him a simple piece of advice: "If it's important to you, you'll do something about it." It struck Crowe as genuine. No hidden agenda, no recruiting pitch, just respect. Yet even this emblematic moment later became tangled in rumor and debate, as insiders claimed Cruise strategically used the interaction to bolster his image as a benevolent influencer. Crowe waits until now to clear the air, emphasizing that the meeting was authentic, a handshake between equals, long before Hollywood's machinery repackaged it for gossip. Another flashpoint arose during the shooting of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. Crowe, shooting B-roll nearby, describes observing Cruise hovering precariously on a cliff's edge, executing a motorcycle stunt that drew gasps from the crew. While the stunt captivated headlines, Crowe remained transfixed by the stark contrast between Cruise's fearlessness and the studio's meticulous safety protocols. He later told an interviewer, "It was maddeningly beautiful, a testament to his craft, but it also felt reckless, like watching someone dance on the edge of a razor." That visceral observation underlined Crowe's belief that artistic integrity and human empathy must coexist on set. Without safety, risk becomes spectacle. Without passion, safety feels sterile. Crowe says he wasn't judging Cruise. He was wrestling with his own sense of vocation. The stunt represented Cruise's commitment, yes, but it also crystallized the gulf between two definitions of sacrifice. One measured in sweat and grit, the other in raw adrenaline. That dichotomy became the through line of Crowe's narrative. He honors the risk Cruise takes, even admires it, yet knows there must be a guiding purpose outweighing pure spectacle. As the camera rolls on this confession, Crowe pauses to reflect on why he chose to speak out now. After decades of rumors and coded remarks, he speaks softly yet with unshakable conviction. "For a long time I thought silence would shield people from more hurt, but what it really did was perpetuate half-truths. The world deserves to hear the whole story, not breadcrumbs tossed from the sidelines." He leans forward, locks eyes with the lens, and delivers the core of his message: honesty over mystique, clarity over conjecture. In this extended interview, Crowe pulls back the curtain on Hollywood's machinery, the negotiations over billing and cuts, the rounds of rewrites fueled by star egos, and the strategic leaks planted to test audience appetite. Yet through it all, Crowe reveals a simple desire: to focus on the artistry. "I want to be judged for what I create, not who I square off with in the headlines." His words echo the sentiment of an artist seeking to transcend the noise, and to remind viewers that behind every tabloid tease there are real individuals telling real stories. Now, as Crowe prepares to step back into the public gaze, he hopes his confession will spark a deeper conversation about respect, collaboration, and the true cost of fame. He imagines fireside chats, where actors lay bare their anxieties and aspirations, rather than safe soundbites engineered for viral impact. And he extends an olive branch to Cruise through the screen. "If you're listening, let's finish what we started, not as rivals, but as co-conspirators in the next great story." His invitation hangs in the air, charged with possibility, reminding everyone that even the fiercest tensions can evolve into something extraordinary. Throughout this journey, Crowe has confronted the blurring lines between personal conviction and public image. He acknowledges that for every whispered rumor or sensational headline, there were real people, friends, collaborators, family, who experienced genuine emotion and confusion. It was never simply about erecting barriers of ego or outshining a fellow star. To Crowe, the tension with Cruise represented a microcosm of Hollywood's greatest challenge, preserving authenticity in a world that thrives on spectacle. He pauses, considering how the glare of cameras can amplify insecurities, and how whispers in the wings can become deafening roars on the red carpet. Even as he speaks candidly, he remains mindful of the responsibility that comes with sharing so much behind-the-scenes truth. "What I'm telling you is only a sliver of what happened," he admits, "but it's enough to remind us that hearts are fragile even when they're armored in fame." Despite the high stakes and swirling drama, Crowe emphasizes that the public's fascination with celebrity conflict is just one chapter in a much larger story. He recalls traveling the world on press tours, only to hear the same question repeated in every city: "When will you and Cruise make peace?" Fans, critics, and casual onlookers seemed mesmerized by the idea of two titans finding common ground. Yet Crowe recognizes that genuine reconciliation cannot be scripted for cameras or choreographed for magazine covers. It has to evolve naturally, through shared challenges and moments of vulnerability. He recounts a chance encounter at a charity gala following the Mummy premiere, when he noticed Cruise across the room quietly contributing to an auction. Without fanfare, they exchanged a nod, small but laden with meaning. For Crowe, that silent acknowledgement spoke volumes, a sign that respect can outlast rivalry. As Crowe contemplates the next act of his career, he reveals a bold new ambition: stepping into the director's chair more frequently, forging stories that bridge his dramatic instincts with big-screen spectacle. He acknowledges that Cruise's approach to action, meticulously planned adrenaline rushes, is something he both admires and aspires to integrate into his own projects. "The one thing I've always envied about Tom is fearlessness," Crowe admits with a smile. "Not because he lacks fear, but because he summons courage every single day. That kind of bravery is the lifeblood of compelling cinema." With this in mind, Crowe is designing a project that weaves character depth and emotional stakes into jaw-dropping set pieces. It's a cinematic experiment aimed at redefining the boundaries between drama and action, an experiment that would, inevitably, require Cruise's unique talents. When asked if he's extended an official invitation to Cruise, Crowe becomes coy, offering only a playful grin before leaning in closer to the microphone. "I've left the door open," he says. "The scripts are lying on my desk, drafted with scenes that demand someone willing to leap off a ledge or stare death in the face. And they also demand someone capable of bearing a soul through a single tear." He laughs, acknowledging the cliffhanger moment. Whether Cruise accepts or not, Crowe believes that the very possibility of such a collaboration has already ignited imaginations across the industry. Film executives, he points out, are already speculating about budgets, co-starring roles, and global marketing strategies. Yet beneath the monetary calculus lies Crowe's deeper hope: that two artists can unite their strengths to craft something neither could achieve alone. Beyond the screen, Crowe expresses a desire to foster environments where creative professionals can be candid without fear of tabloid retaliation. He envisions a genre of filmmaking conversations, roundtable discussions held openly, where stunt coordinators, sound designers, cinematographers, and actors share unvarnished truths about the emotional toll and exhilarating highs of their craft. In those sessions, rivalries would not be demonized but dissected, celebrated as catalysts for innovation. Crowe imagines a world where producers leverage tension as a creative tool rather than a PR liability, and where audiences are invited not only to consume stories but to engage with the nuanced dance of collaboration behind them. Finally, as the interview winds down, Crowe returns to the emotional heartbeat of his revelation: context. He reminds viewers that every fierce stare, every adrenaline-charged stunt, and every whispered feud exists within the greater narrative of human ambition. "We're all striving to leave something behind," he says softly. "To be remembered not just for the moments we risked everything to shoot, but for the honesty we dared to share off camera." With that, he offers one last thought for Cruise and for anyone watching: let's stop chasing the next big reveal and start chasing the next great story together. His words echo long after the lights fade, leaving the audience to wonder whether this closing salutation marks the true beginning of an unprecedented alliance. Even after the cameras stopped rolling, Crowe could feel the weight of his words settling in the control room. Producers leaned forward, eyes wide, as the director wiped tears from his own cheeks. The network's executives exchanged glances, realizing they had just captured more than an interview, they had documented a turning point. Crowe himself sat quietly on the edge of the leather sofa, the studio lights fading behind him, and allowed himself a moment of quiet. He thought back to that first handshake at Nicole Kidman's barbecue, the polite questions about craft, and how that simple introduction had set an entire saga into motion. Tonight, he had stepped beyond rumors, taken ownership of his narrative, and extended an invitation for something greater than rivalry. The silence in the room was no longer empty, it was pregnant with possibility. Less than 24 hours later, Crowe responded to the interview's revelations with a brief video statement released on his personal social channels. In the clip, he spoke calmly, acknowledging that Crowe's honesty had taken him by surprise, and expressing gratitude for the candor. "Russell, thank you for cutting through the noise and speaking your truth," Crowe said, his voice steady yet tinged with warmth. He went on to admit that he had long respected Crowe's commitment to character work, even if their methods diverged. Crowe invited Crowe to join him on stage at an upcoming awards gala to present a joint tribute to actors who have forged unlikely partnerships. Crowe smiled, moved by the gesture, and sent a brief text reading, "Honored, see you there." As the public response exploded, newsweeklies ran covers speculating about the new alliance, and late-night hosts joked about a buddy cop movie. Social media erupted in memes and fan edits, blending clips from Top Gun and Gladiator into absurdist mashups. Industry insiders whispered that agents were betting on a six-figure payday if a collaborative film ever materialized. Yet Crowe understood that the real story lay not in dollar signs but in artistic dialogue. He returned to the project room at his estate, where he had assembled concept art and mood boards a week earlier. One painting showed two silhouettes backlit by a crimson sky, swords lowered in peace. Another sketch portrayed a tear-streaked face framed by blazing explosions, tension and vulnerability intertwined. Crowe spread a handful of loose pages across the table, each detail a promise of synergy. He traced a letter in the margin with his fingertip, the handwriting crisp and deliberate. The note read, "What if we built our journey into the script and let audiences feel each beat?" Crowe sat back and closed his eyes, imagining the swell of an orchestral score weaving through quiet despair and roaring triumph. In that instant, he felt the collision of their worlds, adrenaline and empathy, grit and grace. He knew the risk lay in trusting that audiences would embrace a story that refused easy labels. Crowe exhaled and reached for his phone, beginning to dial Cruise's number. But then his hand hesitated. He realized that every step taken carried immense weight. He tapped the delete key, deciding to wait until they next met face to face. That meeting would define their collaboration, he believed, far more than words could. As night fell, Crowe walked through a corridor lined with posters from his career, each frame a snapshot of triumph or heartbreak. He paused at a poster of Gladiator, remembering the roar of crowds and the magic of that opening shot. Then he stood before a still from A Beautiful Mind, the fragile intensity in his eyes captured forever. In those frozen moments, he recognized the thread that bound all his roles: authenticity, courage to expose vulnerability, power to evoke empathy, and the audacity to risk it all. Crowe knew that bringing Crowe into that space would test both their limits, but he also understood that when two artists pushed each other, they could redefine the art form,